The morning started like any other morning. People woke up, made coffee, checked their phones, and got ready for work. Children ate breakfast before school. Traffic jammed the highways of every major city. Nobody knew it would be the last normal day Earth would ever see. The alien ships appeared at noon. Greenwich Mean Time. They simply materialized in orbit, thousands of them, surrounding the planet like a swarm of metal locusts. The ships were huge, each one larger than the biggest aircraft carrier humanity had ever built. They blocked out the sun in some places, casting shadows across entire cities. The Krethok didn't bother with communication. They didn't demand surrender or explain why they had come. They just started firing. The bombardment began with the major cities: New York, London, Beijing, Mumbai, Sao Paulo. One moment they were there, full of millions of people living their lives. The next moment they were gone, replaced by craters of molten glass and radioactive dust. The attacks came so fast that most people didn't even have time to scream. Admiral Chen Wei was in the Underground Command Center beneath Colorado when the attack started. She had been expecting this day for 20 years, ever since the deep space probes had first detected the Krethok fleet moving through distant star systems, destroying everything in their path. The government had kept it secret, afraid of causing panic. Instead, they had prepared. "Activate Protocol Exodus," she said. Her voice steadied despite the fact that she was ordering the abandonment of Earth. All across the planet, hidden doors opened. They were buried in mountains, hidden in deserts, concealed beneath the ocean floor. From these secret places, ships began to launch. Not warships, but colony vessels. Massive arcs designed to carry millions of people in cryogenic sleep. Data ships containing every piece of human knowledge, art, music, and history ever recorded. Seed ships carrying genetic samples of every plant and animal on Earth. The project had taken decades and cost more money than most nations' entire economies. It had been built in absolute secrecy, with workers who thought they were building something else entirely. Now, as Earth died, it was humanity's only hope. The colony ships rose on pillars of fire, their engines burning so bright they could be seen from space. The Krethok noticed them, of course. They immediately diverted some of their fleet to stop the launches. Alien fighters screamed through Earth's atmosphere, weapons blazing, trying to destroy the escaping vessels. That's when Admiral Chun gave her second order. All defense forces, engage the enemy. Buy them time. What remained of Earth's military threw itself at the Krethok fleet. Fighter jets, space stations, orbital defense platforms, even civilian ships that had been hastily armed with whatever weapons could be mounted on them. They knew they couldn't win. The Krethok were too strong, their technology too advanced, their numbers too great. But they didn't need to win. They just needed to slow the aliens down. The space around Earth became a battlefield unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Human ships exploded by the dozens, but each one took a few precious seconds of the enemy's time. Each fighter pilot who died bought another colony ship a few more moments to escape. Earth's gravity well. Admiral Chun watched the tactical display as green dots, representing human ships, winked out one by one. Each disappearing dot represented hundreds or thousands of lives lost. But the blue dots, the colony ships, kept moving. They were getting away. "Admiral, the enemy is breaking through the western defensive line," an officer reported. "They'll reach launch Site 7 in 3 minutes. Route all power to Site 7's engines," Chun ordered. "Get those ships out now." "But Admiral, if we do that, there won't be enough power for the defensive shields. This facility will be vulnerable." Chun looked at the young officer. He was maybe 25 years old, barely old enough to have finished his training. He would never see 26. None of them would. "I know," she said quietly. "Do it anyway." The last colony ship launched from Site 7, just as Krethok fighters reached the facility. Chun watched it go, its engines blazing like a new star being born. Then the screens went white as the first enemy weapons hit the command center. In orbit, the Krethok fleet continued its work. They were thorough, these aliens. They didn't just destroy military targets. They destroyed everything. Cities, towns, villages, farms. Forests burned. Oceans boiled. The atmosphere itself began to burn as their weapons tore through it. By sunset, there was no one left alive to watch the sun go down. Earth, humanity's cradle, the birthplace of art and music and literature and science, was dead. 7 billion people had lived there that morning. By nightfall, they were all gone. The Krethok ships remained in orbit for 3 more days, making sure nothing survived. They sent down scanning teams to check for underground bunkers or hidden survivors. They found none. Earth was a dead rock now, useful for nothing. Finally, satisfied with their work, the Krethok fleet moved on. They had destroyed 300 worlds before Earth. This was just one more planet full of primitives who had thought they were special. The aliens didn't know about the colony ships that had escaped. They didn't know that those ships carried millions of humans in frozen sleep, heading toward distant stars. They didn't know that scattered across the galaxy, humanity would survive, adapt, and remember. The Krethok thought they had won a simple victory. They had killed a species in a single day. They celebrated and moved on to their next target, already forgetting about the small blue world they had destroyed. They had no idea what they had actually done. They hadn't killed humanity. They had unleashed it. 300 years had passed since Earth died. The Krethok Imperium ruled over 400 worlds now, and Earth was just a footnote in their history. A small victory that nobody remembered or cared about. They had won so many battles, destroyed so many species, that one more dead world meant nothing to them. But the galaxy was big, and the Krethok didn't know everything that happened in it. The colony ship Perseverance had traveled for 80 years before finding a suitable world. It was a frozen planet that the crew named Frost, orbiting a dim red star. Not an ideal home, but it had water, breathable air, and no hostile aliens. The colonists woke from their cryogenic sleep and began to build. Life on Frost was hard. The temperature never rose above freezing, even in summer. The colonists lived underground at first, in tunnels carved from ice and rock. Children were born who had never seen Earth, who only knew the cold. They adapted. They became strong. They learned to love their frozen world and the challenges it presented. Other ships found other worlds. The colony ship Forge landed on a planet with vast metal deposits and built massive factories. New Horizons settled on a world with perfect conditions for farming and became humanity's breadbasket. The Generation ship Wanderer never found a planet at all, so its people just kept traveling, being born and dying in space, becoming the Void-born. Each colony grew in isolation. They didn't have faster-than-light communication, so they couldn't talk to each other. Each group thought they might be the last humans alive. They built their societies differently, adapted to their environments, developed unique technologies and cultures. But they all remembered one thing: Earth, and the aliens who had destroyed it, on Frost. A woman named Elena Volkov was teaching her daughter about Earth. It was warm there, she said, showing the girl pictures on an old data tablet. Blue skies, green grass, liquid water that fell from the sky as rain. Why did the aliens kill everyone? The girl asked. Because they could, Elena answered. Because they were strong and we were weak. But we're not weak anymore, Maya. We're survivors. And survivors remember. The girl Maya grew up with that lesson. She became a soldier, like many on Frost. The colony needed defenders in case the Krethok ever found them. But years passed and no aliens came. Life continued, People started to forget that they were supposed to be hiding. Then, on the colony of New Horizon, everything changed. The Krethok scout ship entered the system without warning. New Horizon had grown prosperous over the centuries, with a population of nearly 1 million people. They had farms that stretched across continents, cities built from local stone, and a peaceful society that had never known war. The Krethok saw easy prey. Governor James Chun, a descendant of Admiral Chen Wei, received the first reports with ice in his stomach. "They're here," he said to his council. "The ones who killed Earth, they found us." The aliens sent a message, though not in words. They simply destroyed one of New Horizon's orbital farms with a single shot. The meaning was clear. Surrender or die. Governor Chun thought about his ancestor, who had sacrificed herself so humanity could escape. He thought about the 7 billion people who had died on Earth. Then he thought about something else. The colony ship that had brought them here hadn't just carried people and seeds. It had carried weapons, military technology, and soldiers in cryogenic sleep. "Just in case, wake the military sleepers," he ordered. "All of them. And send a message to the enemy. Tell them we remember Earth. Tell them we will never surrender." The Krethok found the response amusing. These primitive humans thought they could fight. The scout ship was small by Imperium standards, but it still had enough firepower to destroy a planet. They moved in to finish what they had started. They didn't know that New Horizon had been preparing for this day for 3 centuries. Every able-bodied person on the planet had basic military training. The factories that made farming equipment could switch to making weapons in hours. And the military sleepers, soldiers who had been alive when Earth fell, still remembered how to fight. The battle started in orbit. New Horizon's small defense fleet, just a dozen ships, engaged a Krethok scout ship. The alien vessel was stronger, faster, better armed. But the human pilots were desperate, and desperation makes people creative. They attacked from multiple angles, never staying in one place long enough to be hit. They used the planet's magnetic field to hide their electronic signatures. When one ship was damaged, it deliberately rammed the enemy vessel, doing just enough damage to drop its shields. Then the other ships fired everything they had at that one vulnerable spot. The Krethok scout ship exploded. For the first time in 300 years, humans had killed their enemy. Governor Chun stood in the command center, watching the wreckage scatter. Around him, people were cheering, crying, hugging each other. But Chun felt cold. "They'll come back," he said. "That was just one ship. They'll send more." "Then we'll fight more," said Colonel Sarah Okonkwo, one of the military sleepers who had just won the battle. She was 60 years old chronologically, but had spent most of those years frozen. "And this time, we'll tell the other colonies. It's time humanity stopped hiding." "We don't even know if there are other colonies," someone pointed out. Okonkwo smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. "Then we'll find them. We'll unite them. And we'll show these aliens what happens when you scatter humanity across the stars. You don't make us weaker. You make us dangerous." They sent out messages on all frequencies, hoping someone would hear. They recorded the battle and broadcast it into space. They didn't know if anyone would receive it, but they had to try. On Frost, Maya Volkov was on patrol when her ship picked up the signal. She watched the recording of the battle 3 times, her hand shaking. Then she brought it to her commanders. "It's time," she said. "Earth's children are fighting back. We need to join them." On Forge, in the factories that never stopped working, engineers received the same message and began building warships. On Wanderer, the Voidborn calculated jump routes to New Horizon. Across the darkness of space, on worlds that had grown strong in isolation, humanity heard the call. The Krethok had scattered them. Now that scattering would become their greatest weapon. The Krethok, Grand Fleet arrived at New Horizons 6 months after the scout ship's destruction. It was an armada of 200 warships, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The fleet commander, war leader Thaxcor, expected to find a primitive colony begging for mercy. Instead, he found an empty system. New Horizon had been evacuated. Every person, every piece of technology, every seed and animal, gone. The planet was empty, except for a single transmission playing on repeat. We were here. Now we're everywhere. Come find us? Thaxcor was furious. He ordered the planet destroyed anyway, turning it into an asteroid field. It fell hollow, though. There was no victory in destroying an empty world. But the message worried him. Everywhere? How many human colonies were there? He soon found out. Human ships began appearing in Krethok systems across dozens of sectors. They weren't big fleet actions, just small raids. A supply convoy would disappear. An outpost would go silent. Mining operations would be destroyed. The attacks were spread out, unpredictable, and always successful. The humans would strike fast, take what they needed, and vanish before reinforcements arrived. The Krethok had never faced this kind of warfare. They were used to conquering planets, to facing enemies who stayed in one place and fought traditional battles. These humans refused to fight fair. They were ghosts, appearing and disappearing like smoke. Captain Sarah Okonkwo commanded the first unified human strike force. Her fleet was small, just 30 ships from a dozen different colonies. Each ship was different, built with different technologies and different designs. But they all had one thing in common: crews who remembered Earth. Target the fuel depot, Okonkwo ordered as they dropped out of faster-than-light travel near a Krethok mining colony. Frost Team, you're on ice duty. Forge Team, grab whatever tech you can carry. Voidborn, keep an eye on our exit route. We have 15 minutes before they can scramble fighters. The attack went perfectly. The Frost Team deployed their specialty, flash freezing technology that turned the enemy's defensive weapons into brittle ice sculptures. The Forge Team, master engineers, cracked the alien computer systems and downloaded everything. The Voidborn pilots, who had lived their entire lives in space, navigated through the asteroid field, surrounding the colony like they were dancing. 14 minutes later, the human fleet jumped away. Behind them, the fuel depot exploded, and the mining colony went dark. The Krethok wouldn't be getting resources from that system anymore. Another successful operation, Okonkwo said to her crew. Let's go home. But they didn't go home. They went to the next target. And the next. And the next. Word of the raids spread across the galaxy. The Krethok tried to keep it quiet, but you can't hide 24 burning colonies. Other species, ones the Krethok had conquered long ago, began to whisper. If the humans could fight back, maybe they could too. On the slave world of Venar, a species of telepathic beings called the Venari received a message from the humans. We remember when the Krethok destroyed our world. Do you remember when they destroyed yours? Fight with us. The Venari remembered. They started sabotaging the factories where they were forced to work. Small acts at first, then bigger ones. Then open rebellion, the pattern repeated across the Imperium. Every species that had been conquered, enslaved, or broken began to resist. The humans had shown them that the Krethok could bleed. That was all the hope they needed. Thaxcor realized too late that he was facing a galaxy-wide rebellion. He pulled his scattered fleets together, gathering every ship the Imperium could spare. 3,000 warships, the largest fleet the Krethok had ever assembled. He would crush these humans once and for all, destroy every colony, and teach the galaxy what happened to those who resisted. He tracked the human fleet to the Sigma Draco system, a cluster of asteroids and dead planets orbiting a dying star. Perfect for an ambush, except Thaxcor had the numbers. He could afford to be ambushed. His fleet could take losses and still win through sheer firepower. Humans, he broadcast on all frequencies. Surrender now, and we will make your deaths quick. Resist, and we will hunt down every colony, every ship, every last member of your species. We destroyed your Earth. We will destroy everything you have built. The response came from Sarah Okonkwo. You destroyed our home. You killed our families. You scattered us across the stars, thinking it would break us. But you made a mistake. You taught us that we don't need one world. We don't need to protect one place. We can be anywhere. We can be everywhere. And we remember. The Battle of Sigma Draco began. The Krethok fleet advanced in formation. Weapons ready, confident in their overwhelming superiority. They outnumbered the humans 10-1. This would be a slaughter. Then the asteroids started moving. The humans had been in the Sigma Draco system for weeks, preparing. They had hidden ships inside hollowed-out asteroids. They had placed weapons platforms disguised as space debris. They had turned the entire system into a trap. The Krethok fleet suddenly found itself surrounded. Human ships emerged from every direction, firing from unexpected angles. The neat formation broke apart as captains tried to respond to threats coming from above, below, and all sides. Maya Volkov, now a captain in the Frost Fleet, led her squadron through the chaos. Her ships didn't fight like traditional warships. They darted in close, too close for the enemy's main guns to track, and deployed their freezing weapons. Krethok ships found their hull plating turning brittle, their weapons jamming, their life support systems failing. The forward ships attacked differently. They targeted engines and power systems with precision strikes, disabling rather than destroying. Disabled ships were valuable. They could be studied, salvaged, reverse engineered. The Voidborn performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. They threaded through the asteroid field at speeds that made even other human pilots nervous, leading Krethok ships into collisions with Space Orcs. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, the Krethok Grand Fleet was destroyed. Not damaged, not defeated, destroyed. Fewer than 100 ships escaped. 3,000 of the Imperium's finest warships had been turned into wreckage floating in space. THA single quotes KOR was not among the survivors. His flagship had been boarded by human troops who fought with a fury that shocked even seasoned Krethok warriors. He died on his own bridge, finally understanding what humans truly were, survivors, who never forgot and never forgave. The news of the victory spread across the galaxy faster than light. Humanity had faced the Krethok's full might and won. The war lasted 30 more years. The Krethok Imperium, which had ruled the galaxy for millennia, was dying. Not quickly, not easily, but dying nonetheless. Every battle they lost emboldened their enemies. Every world that rebelled inspired 10 more. The great empire was collapsing under its own weight. Humanity didn't fight alone. The Vanari joined them, their telepathic abilities making them perfect for coordination and intelligence gathering. The Kryn, a warrior species that had been enslaved for 500 years, brought their combat expertise. Dozens of other species contributed what they could. But everyone agreed that humans led the coalition because humans had done what no one else had. They had refused to die. Marcus Chun stood on the bridge of the flagship Remembrance, watching the final approach to Krethok Prime. He was 50 years old, a career military officer, and the great-great-great-grandson of Admiral Chen Wei, who had died defending Earth. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. All fleets report ready, his communications officer announced. We have ships from 147 different species. Total count, 12,000 vessels. Marcus looked at the tactical display. 12,000 ships, representing 1,000 liberated systems, all gathered for this final battle. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in known history. And leading them were the humans, scattered humanity that had been forged in the fires of extinction and had emerged stronger. "Open a channel to the planet," Marcus ordered. The face that appeared on the screen was Krethok, but Marcus could see the fear in its eyes. Good. Let them feel what Earth had felt. "I am Admiral Marcus Chun of the Free Systems Coalition," he said. 332 years ago, your Imperium destroyed Earth. 7 billion humans died that day. You thought you had eliminated us. You were wrong. We have 10,000 defense platforms, the Krethok leader said, trying to sound confident. Our planetary shields can withstand your entire fleet. You cannot win here. You're probably right, Marcus admitted. We probably can't break your shields without massive casualties. So I'm going to give you a choice. Surrender and face justice for your crimes. We will put you on trial. We will judge you by the laws we all agree on. Or refuse, and we will do to your world what you did to Earth and 300 other planets. We have the weapons. We have the will. He paused, letting that sink in. Then he continued, but here's the difference between us and you. We remember mercy. Even after everything you've done, we remember that there's a better way. We became strong not by destroying others, but by surviving and helping each other. So choose, justice or destruction. The Krethok leader's face twisted with rage and fear. For a long moment, Marcus thought they would refuse. He had already given the order to prepare the planet killer weapons if needed. He didn't want to use them, but he would if he had to. Then the leader spoke. You think yourselves merciful? You think yourselves better than us? You're just primitives who got lucky. The channel closed. Marcus waited for the defense platforms to start firing. Instead, there was a different kind of explosion on the planet's surface. Reports started coming in from intelligence officers. Sir, we're picking up massive energy signatures from the surface. It looks like they're destroying their own government buildings. Multiple nuclear detonations detected. All in the capital city. The planetary shields are dropping. We're receiving surrender signals from the defense platforms. Marcus watched in shock as the Krethok leadership committed mass suicide rather than face capture. The war was over, just like that. Not with a final glorious battle, but with the enemy destroying itself rather than accepting defeat. They couldn't accept it, Sarah Okonkwo said. She was an old woman now, having spent decades fighting. They built their entire civilization on being the strongest, most feared. When they lost that, they had nothing left. Then they truly lost everything, Marcus said quietly. They could have changed. They could have learned. They chose to die instead. The Imperium collapsed within months. Without leadership, the various Krethok colonies surrendered or were overthrown by their slave populations. Some Krethok were put on trial for war crimes. Others simply tried to live quiet lives, their empire and glory days gone forever. The coalition faced a choice. What came next? They had united to fight a common enemy. But that enemy was gone now. Would they splinter into 1,000 separate systems again? Would someone try to build a new empire? It was Maya Volkov, now an old woman who had lived through the entire war, who proposed the solution. We were strongest when we were scattered, she said at the first peace conference. Every human colony developed differently, became something unique. That diversity made us adaptable. So let's not go back to having one center of power. Let's stay diverse, but connected. The Free Systems Accord was signed on Earth. Earth had been reclaimed over the decades of war. The radiation had been cleaned. The atmosphere had been restored. Trees grew in soil that had been molten rock. Oceans teemed with life again. But it was different now. Earth wasn't the center of humanity anymore. It was a memorial, a reminder, a sacred place where representatives from every human colony and allied species came to remember and to plan. At the signing ceremony, Marcus Chun planted a seed in the soil. It was from a tree that had survived in genetic storage since before the fall. Around him, representatives from 1,000 systems planted seeds from their own worlds. Earth's soil became a mixture of 1,000 planets, just as humanity had become a mixture of 1,000 different cultures. Earth fell in one day, Marcus said to the assembled crowd. But from its ashes, humanity rose in 1,000 systems. We learned that strength doesn't come from having everything in one place. It comes from spreading out, from being diverse, from refusing to put all our hope in one basket. We are the scattered people, and that is our eternal strength. An old Venari diplomat approached him after the ceremony. Your species is young, she said telepathically. But you have taught the galaxy something ancient species had forgotten. You taught us that being broken doesn't mean being defeated. That being scattered doesn't mean being weak. You were broken into 1,000 pieces, and each piece became a blade. Marcus looked up at the sky, where he could see ships from 100 different species orbiting the planet. Earth would never again hold 7 billion humans. That many people would never live in one place again. Humanity had learned its lesson. They were spread across the stars now, each colony unique, each culture different, but all connected by common values and mutual defense. The Krethok thought they could kill an idea by destroying its birthplace, Marcus said. They learned too late that ideas don't die. They spread. They grow. They adapt. They evolve. And when you try to destroy them, when you try to burn them out, all you do is scatter the embers. And embers, when scattered, can start 1,000 fires. That night, on Earth, and on 1,000 other worlds across the galaxy, people looked up at the stars and knew they were not alone. Humanity had been scattered, but in that scattering, they had found not weakness, but strength. They had proven that you cannot conquer a species that refuses to be contained to one world. You cannot destroy a people who learn, adapt, and remember. The Krethok had tried to extinguish humanity in one day. Instead, they had created something they could never have imagined. A species that was everywhere, nowhere, and impossible to kill. A species that remembered both its victories and its defeats, and learned from both. Humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never be the same.